Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is Brook Hiddink, and I'm an e-commerce entrepreneur from Dubai, originally from Canada. Before we dive in, really pushing a lot of YouTube content this year, so I greatly appreciate your support. If you could hit subscribe on the button below and like this video, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions at all about high-ticket dropshipping, I will do my best to answer any and all comments. So be sure to comment any questions that you have below, and we'll dive right in. This is going to be the second video of the series of the top high-ticket dropshipping niches of 2023, episode 2, which is going to be on off-grid prepper and gatherer style store. So just before we get into it, just a story about myself. When I started in high-ticket e-com, I actually started with my niche was going to be modern furniture, and it went terribly. Like, was contacting suppliers, there was no map enforced, minimum advertised prices, a way to protect margins. There was no map enforced. Suppliers wanted me to ship on my account, terrible margins. All around just was terrible. And eventually I thought to myself, like, you know what, like, furniture's not working, I have to pivot. I ended up just calling suppliers from all sorts of niches, so massage chairs and saunas and fitness equipment, kind of like a home wellness theme was my goal. I was gonna contact like all different home wellness stuff. And I got on a sauna brand, $7,000 to $10,000 products with like 25, 30% margins, like very strong margins. And I ended up doing over $2 million in sales with them in the next 15 months until now. And the reason I tell that story is just the importance of selecting a good niche. And going through that experience really taught me a lot. Like, I now know the exact character traits and what to look for when I'm looking for niches, which is extremely beneficial. When I started, I didn't really know what to look for. So what I'm trying to share with you in this series, the first video was on the elderly niche, and now we're on the prepper and gather, is really trying to help you identify not only like some good niches that you can start with, but exactly kind of what to look for and what makes a good niche overall. So as we're going through this, really pay attention to the characteristics of it, kind of like the factors I'm analyzing. And if you can think of something that I'm not even covering, meets these character traits, that's probably even better because it'll be even more unique. And the more unique here, the better it is. Without further ado, we'll dive into this video, which is the top high-ticket dropshipping niches of 2023, episode 2 of the series. Let's dive right in. So welcome to episode 2 of the top dropshipping niches of 2023. Today, we're going to be covering the off-grid prepper and gatherer niche. So let's dive right into it. Before we get going, what we're going to discuss is why this is a solid niche overall. We're going to discuss demographic considerations and what type of person you'll be dealing with in this niche. We're going to be discussing whether it's a need or a want, which is very important when you're in a time of economic uncertainty. We're going to be discussing the top 10 product types in this niche. We're going to be discussing some other products that might not fit into the original 10. And lastly, we're going to discuss the top high-ticket dropshipping stores currently selling in this niche. So to start off, why is this a solid niche? So the first thing is it's an expanding niche. So it's one that is increasing in demand over time. A lot of products we're going to discuss, such as solar panels, solar kits, solar inverters, these are relatively novel and new products, and the demand is going to continue growing. So not only is it a great market with great margins, but the demand and the market size is going to be increasing over time, which is very important. Demographic considerations. In times of economic uncertainty, essentially how you should think of products on a spectrum is a need and a want. So a want is something that you don't necessarily need. So if I was going to go to the store and buy new headphones, these ones are fine, but maybe I want the new model. Maybe I want the Apple AirPod headphones. That would be something that I want. It's not something that I need because A, I already have some, and B, I can just work out without them. That's why it's a want. A need is something that I'm going to not cut out of my budget. So let's say if I'm an old person, we discussed this in the first episode of the series, so you can go back and watch that if you haven't watched episode 1 on the elderly niche. But if I'm old and I can't walk, one of the last things I'm going to cut on my budget is things like a wheelchair or a mobility scooter, because I literally need that to get around. So that's an example of a need, where headphones are an example of a want. So you want to be selling in times of economic uncertainty. Lots of people talk about, like, we might be in a recession right now. There might be one lingering. People may be cutting back their spends. And when people cut back their spending, they're usually cutting back spending on wants, not needs. So you want to be selling needs. So this here is certainly a need, and it's almost something above a need, because when someone's a prepper in times of economic uncertainty and there's not government trust, they actually are buying out of fear. So it's not that they need not only do they need it, but they're fearing for their survival. Like they want to be able to power their own home. They want to be able to store their food. They want to be able to protect themselves in these times. So even though the economy is down, the demand for a lot of these products actually spikes and is actually increased during a time of economic uncertainty. So very, very much a want here in this niche. So we have an increasing market size overall. We have it's a need, probably even a level above a need. And the demand is definitely kind of increasing in a positive trend over time for a lot of these products, as you'll see as we dive into the specific product types. But without further ado, let's discuss the 10 top products in the prepper gatherer niche. So number one is solar kits and solar panels. As you can see, over time, if we look at the demand chart, we can see over time that there's an increasing trend. So the market is expanding naturally. There's already 45,000 searches per month. And what these things are is, as you see in the picture, it's essentially a generator, but it's powered by solar panels. So rather than having to like plug your generator in or charge it or whatever else, you can power the generator through solar. So you could power your whole home using one of these things without being reliant upon the power grid. So this is very, very appealing to some people. It's definitely a need, as we discussed. Maybe it's not a need, but it's people, if they're buying it out of fear, it very much is kind of classified as a need. It's non-seasonal, so there's no huge peaks here depending on the season. And we're seeing a positively increasing trend over time. So product number one is solar kits and solar panels. Number two, we have solar batteries. So very much the same as number one. We see a strong increasing trend over time. Not a lot of seasonality going on. It's definitely a need. And there's currently 11,000 searches per month for these things. So it's very much the same as the solar generator and the solar kit. And number one is essentially a battery, but it's powered through solar. So same idea, just being able to power things through solar without relying on traditional, the grid or electricity or whatever else. Product number three is solar inverter. So as we can see, much like the other two solar items, a very strong increasing trend over time. Non-seasonal, definitely a need. 6,600 searches right now. And to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure what an inverter is compared to a battery or a solar kit. I just found this on one of the top solar websites in the high-ticket dropshipping space. So I'm assuming that it's a good solar product, but I don't know exactly what it does and what the difference is between that and the other two. Number four is a hydroponic garden. So what this is essentially, rather than relying on traditional farming, people are actually able to have their own gardens. Like let's say if you live in the city, you can have your own garden indoors. So rather than kind of like spreading it out like a traditional garden, it actually grows up and you can feed the plants nutrients and stuff through these sort of things. So as we see, there's a huge spike during the pandemic when people were fearful about getting food from the grocery store. You can see that massive spike. But overall, even if you take that spike out, we see an increasing trend over time as well. 24,000 searches per month right now. Moderate increase over time. Non-seasonal and definitely a need. People are wanting to grow their own food out of fear that they're not going to be able to get it through traditional means. So very, very good product as well for this niche. Number five is wood stoves. So very much the same reasoning as the solar. Wood stoves is just a little bit more old school version of that. So rather than relying on solar or novel technologies, a wood stove is essentially a way to heat your home just through wood rather than relying upon a furnace or hydroelectricity or whatever else you're usually using. So as you can see, there's 65,000 searches per month. The demand trend is relatively stable. It's not really increasing or decreasing over time. It is very seasonal. So people want these things obviously in the colder months. You see a huge peak during the colder months. It's usually a need. If someone wants to heat their home, that's not something they're going to be cutting out of their budget in the time of a recession or economic uncertainty. If they want it, they obviously need to stay warm. So if that's the reason they're buying, usually one of the last things they're going to cut out of their budget, which is excellent for us. Next up, we have traditional generators. So 258,000 searches per month. There's obviously a ton of demand for these. There was a decline, but now we're seeing like a moderate increasing trend over time. Non-seasonal, but we see spikes during the pandemic again. So when people are afraid that they're not going to be able to heat their home or power their home through traditional methods, things like this will spike. And again, it's a need, not a want, if you need to be able to power something. Next up, we have actually survival shelters. So this is quite an interesting niche, but obviously, as you see, very expensive, well over 10 grand. But essentially, it's like a shelter, and you can actually buy these online. So 13,000 searches per month. We can obviously see a huge increase recently for whatever world events. Non-seasonal demand is relatively stable. But definitely, if you're buying one of these things, it's not something you're going to be cutting out of your budget because you're probably buying this for fear for your life. But a very interesting high-ticket e-commerce product, nevertheless. Next up, we have satellite phones. So if people are worried about being able to lose power, they want to be able to stay connected and communicate regardless of being reliant upon the traditional means. So again, 37,000 searches per month for these things, a moderate increase in demand over time, non-seasonal, and being able to communicate through satellite is obviously a need. Like, it's something that if someone's buying this thing, it's not going to be something they cut out of their budget. It's something that they really, really value and need to even be buying this overall. And again, you can see very, very expensive. You can get the whole pack and even encrypted satellite bundle. So excellent product for this niche. Next up, we have gun safes. So during economic uncertain times in the US, gun scales actually skyrocket. So you can see for gun safes, people obviously need a place to put these things, especially if they have kids or family members. They probably don't just want them lying around. 189,000 searches per month, increasing demand over time for sure. Probably a little bit seasonal during like the hunting months or the whatever months, the fall, I guess that would be. There are some spikes here during specific months. Definitely a need if people are wanting to store this. It's usually out of fear for the wrong people getting it, like such as children or whatever else. So really strong demand. And again, quite expensive items. They go up to usually around 3 to 5K for gun safes. And lastly, we have medical kits. So not just your traditional first aid kit that you carry around with you, like kind of full-blown emergency medical kit, well over a couple $1,000s. And you can see there's a huge increase in demand over time for these, like massive increase. 76,000 searches per month for medical kits, non-seasonal. And obviously, if you're buying this, one of the last things you're going to cut out of your budget because you're buying for your health, for your safety. Usually that's the last thing people are going to cut out of their budget during economic uncertain times is their health, their safety, their overall well-being and ability to survive. So not a worry there. So just to review quickly, the top 10 product types in the prepper gatherer niche. We have solar pits and panels, solar batteries, solar inverters. We have hydroponic gardens, wood stoves, generators, safety and survival shelters, satellite phones, gun safes, and medical kits. And here are top 3 high-ticket e-commerce stores in this niche. We have shopsolarkits.com, so we'll get out of this here. Shopsolarkits.com is doing like 50 million plus a year selling solar kits. As you see, well over a couple $1,000s, and they have these massive kits with the battery, the panels, everything all in one for well over 15 grand. And they're doing like 50 million a year. If you check their SEO, you can see they're actually getting 54,000 free visitors a month, which is very substantial. We have Armadillo safes and vaults. So this is like home safes, gun safes, vaults, business security things. So all these things in economic uncertain times, thefts will go up. So safes will actually skyrocket in sales. So again, domain rating of only 19, they're getting 7,000 free visitors a month, which is very strong. Overall, a unique store that probably does very well during economic uncertain times. Lastly, we have the emergency. Actually, I have 2 more. So this is the emergency zone. Again, very. This seems to be like they have all sorts of. The reason I put this one on here is they have all sorts of other products that will do very well during this time. They have emergency kits, emergency food, water storage, purification, filters, reflective blankets, ponchos, flashlights, emergency toilets, all sorts of these things that are very much like the prepper, gatherer, emergency type of person store. So these are just some other product ideas. That's why I put this one on here. And lastly, we have Shop Gun Safes Now. So domain rating of 19, they're getting over 11,000 searches per month on a relatively low domain rating store, which is very impressive. All sorts of different safes, dehumidifiers, hotel safes, storages. Overall, the store is doing very well. So those are 3 stores that you can look at for examples as ones that are doing well in the space right now is shop solar kits, armadillo safes, and shotgun safes now. And I also put emergency zone on there just for other product ideas. But thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of the top dropshipping niches of 2023. Episode 1 was on the elderly niche. Episode 2, which we just covered, was on the prepper and gatherer niche. I hope you enjoyed. Again, if you could please subscribe to my channel below and like this video. And if you have any questions at all about niche selection, please put them below. I'll answer any and all comments. Thank you for taking time out of your amazing day to watch, and I'll see you guys soon in the next video. Cheers.